wedding venues and liaising with wedding venues when you have a wedding cake booking. Which if you've not done it before, if you're new to wedding cakes and you've not done the whole liaising with venues thing, it's actually fairly straightforward, and the vast majority of venues are just lovely, and very chatty and very helpful. I've only come across perhaps one or two where they were a bit off and a bit full of their own self-importance, but most of them are just wanting to make everything right, and they're wanting to make your life easier as well, which is always good. So I've got a few things, and Louise helpfully gave us a few pointers in the Wednesday question as well. So I shall refer to those as well, although they're very similar to mine, of course they will be, won't they? Because we both do this. So yes, so it's a question of, I always say to my couples, my wedding couples, oh, morning, Gemma, morning. I always say to my wedding couples, leave the venue to me. You don't need to worry about the venue because I will sort all that out. And that's sort of another a plus point for you as a wedding cake baker. You take all the worry of that away from them, because in the booking stage they'll say, oh, when will you turn up at the, and I said, don't you worry about that, I will talk to the venue about that. Leave it to me. And most of them are really happy to do that. They trust me to go and get it done. I have come across a couple, and it's actually the men, I hate to say it, I've not come across any bridezillas, but a couple of men have been sort of control freaks and wanted the military when it was all going to happen. But on the whole, I say to them, don't worry about that, I will sort all that out, I will talk to the venues. And so this is what I do, which works brilliantly, with a few exceptions, but I'll talk to you about those. Let's bring that down a bit. There. I will talk to you about those as we go along. So the first thing to do, as Louise pointed out on Wednesday, is to double check you've got the right venue. That's always a good one. I always, when I book a couple in, I put their address on and the postcode and ask them to check it. Because there was a couple that booked a few years ago who were getting married. They told me they were getting married at the Brands Hatch Hotel in Kent. I don't know if any of you know the area. But when I went online, I think there were 2 or 3 hotels whose name was very similar to Brands Hatch Hotel. So I wasn't sure which one. So obviously I had to go back to them and say, which one is it? So from then on, I've always done full address, road name, postcode, just to double check it's the right one. And the other thing to double check, of course, is if the venue is in like a franchise, handpicked hotels, for example, just make sure that you are contacting the right hotel in that chain. It may seem obvious, but it really is the kind of thing that I do. Go onto the sort of general corporate website, contact someone there, and then realize that you've actually contacted the wrong hotel. Kind of thing I do, actually. But then I never get the date right on my emails. I haven't quite sussed that one out yet. So so make sure you've got the right venue. And then what I will do is I will, about 3 weeks before, usually 3 weeks before, unless the couple seem to be getting anxious, then I'll do it sooner. I will, if I've been given a name by the couple, or if I've used the venue before, that's easy because I'll just go to the name that I know. If not, what I generally do is I just Google the venue and find the wedding contact us email address. And that hasn't failed me yet. It hasn't, I always get through to the right person. Even if it's on, on the contact on the website and it's a contact box, contact us with your inquiry. I'll put it in there and it gets to the right person. So, and what I will generally say, oh, Nicola's here. Hello, Nicola. Hello. What I would generally say is, hi, I'm Annie from Leading Lady Cakes. I'm supplying the cake on whatever date for whichever couple it is, just to double check, got the right people. I always suggest an arrival time. So I'll say, can I arrive about 11 o'clock? Please let me know if that's not convenient, because either I've got no other weddings that day, or I've only got one other wedding that day, or whatever it is. I'll say I can be flexible with the time, because some venues, some of you know this already, but if the cake is going in the ceremony room, if they're doing a switch around, you can't have the cake. There's rules apparently that say you can't have the cake in the ceremony. There's things you can't have legally in the ceremony room. It's very bizarre. So you would have to go at sort of 4 o'clock to set the cake up while they're switching the room around, for example. But generally I'll say, can I arrive at 11 a.m? Is that fine? I will I'll say something about cake stands, whether the oh, hello Jenny, whether the couple have booked a cake stand or whether they are using the venues ones, because I know the venues that I've used, most of them have got a cake stand of some sort. So I'll say, just checking I can use your cake stand, and perhaps chat to them where the cake will be. Again, with venues that I know, there's a lovely venue near me called Wadhurst Castle. I don't know if any of you are in the southeast, but it's just the most beautiful venue. It's sort of small and intimate, and it's just lovely. And in their reception room, they've got a little tower, and the cake always goes in there. It's their cake tower. It's just like a little circular room off the main room. So I know more often than not that the cake is going to go in there, because that's what they sell it as, the cake tower. But for other venues, I might, ask, for example, there's another venue that I use, Buxted Park, where I've put the cake in various different places depending on where the wedding is. So I will sort of just ascertain where the cake is going to need to go. And then, and Louise mentioned this as well, this is really good thing to know. I ask about access. Obviously, if I know the venue, I'll just say, I've been to you before. I know, I know what's what. That's fine. But if it's a new venue, I will say, where's the best place to park to have access to where I'm going to put the cake? Are there steps up and down? Is parking free, or is it paid for? Whatever. There are some venues that I use on Eastbourne Seafront, no parking at all, and you have to take your chances. Which can be always stresses me out actually when I know I'm going there, because most of them have like loading bays in front, but if it's a wedding, they're often full with other suppliers, vans and things. So I have to go and find somewhere to park. I don't mind about the cost, that's not a problem, but the thought of, if I've got a 4-tiered cake and it's in separate boxes, I'm having to take, unless you've got a trolley, but then, anyway. So it's good to be prepared to know what it is you're going to have to do when you get to the venue. Are you going to have to cart in your boxes in bits? Is it a question of being able to take it in? Sometimes I will decide whether to stack my cake depending on how far from the venue I can park, how many steps there are when I get there. Because if it's, a 3-tiered, moderately heavy cake, if I can park just outside the door and the table's just the other side of the door, I can manage that. But if I have to park 2 streets away and bring it along the road across a zebra crossing and up 2 flights of stairs, there's no way I'm going to stack it before I go. It's gonna happen when I get there, So those kind of things will tell you, how you prepare your cake before you go. It's quite useful information. What else? So that's, where the entrance, what's the parking and how many steps. I've written gravel here. There's what it's Buxted Park actually, and then another couple of venues where I've gone. Of course, in the summer, sometimes you wear sandals, don't you? And I've learnt with Buxted Park particularly that if I go there, right, it's got to be closed toe because their drive is gravel. And every single time I've gone there and forgotten and worn my sandals, it's utterly painful because they get full of gravel. It sounds really daft, doesn't it? But when you're carrying a cake and you've got shoes full of stones, that's not good. That's not helpful for carrying cakes. So I just, I think, right, okay, that's a gravel venue. I must wear my trainers, not my sandals. Little things, little things. And it's also worth finding out, although you can find this out without actually the suppliers, is whether there's a long drive with loads of humps. Because again, that will tell you how you're going to transport your cake. If there's hundreds and hundreds of humps to get to where you're going to drop the cake off, you don't really want to stack your 5-tiered cake in the car. Anyway, so yeah, so I find out about access, the door I use, all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I always do is I always say, I either attach it anyway, or I'll say to them, I've got my public liability if you want it. Sometimes if I'm feeling really efficient, I'll just attach it anyway. And I'll say, please find my, PL insurance attached. Is me. Just so they, whether they ask for it or not. Not all venues will ask for it. Not all venues are bothered about that. But some of them are. The bigger corporate ones, the hotels that are in chains, say like the handpicked hotels, they're more likely to want your insurance documents because they have sort of policies and procedures and things. The smaller, more individual venues, less likely to want those, but have them ready anyway. Offer them anyway, because it does make you look more professional. If you say, here's my insurance, actually, it does make you look a bit more professional and as if you know what you're doing, even if you don't. And then the other thing I always ask, I'll say I'll have an information sheet which will include ingredients and allergens. Would you like that emailed before the day, or would you like it hard copy on the day? Some venues love to have it emailed to them so they can put it on their file. Some say, oh no, on the day is fine. But I always ask, how would you like your, information, allergens, ingredients sheet? Some of them are quite surprised that I offer it. Oh, I had one venue said, oh no, the cake makers offer this. Thinking, blimey, don't they? You've at least got to say about the allergens. Anyway, let's not get into that here. I have one supplier that I have to do, in fact, it's Buxted, who I have to do things slightly different because I think it's their policy that they insist on everything about 6 months in advance or something ridiculous. So I'm wise to it now. So if I've got couples booked into that venue, I will contact them a good couple of months beforehand. In fact, sometimes, even 6 months beforehand, and say, I'm supplying for this wedding. Here is my public liability insurance. You will receive an allergens information sheet either the day before or 2 days before. I can't give it to you sooner than that because I won't have bought the ingredients before that. I've found it difficult sometimes to make them understand that I can't do an ingredients list 3 weeks in advance of a wedding because before I've actually bought the ingredients. Because as you know, us cake bakers, ingredients can change. The contents of ingredients can change. Sometimes you can suddenly have an allergen that wasn't there before. But venues don't seem to understand this. At least this one didn't. So they were insisting on it 3 weeks before or 2 weeks before. I said, well, I can give it to you. I can send it as soon as I've got the ingredients and check them. You can have it then, probably, 3 days before the wedding, whatever. I mean, they were very nice about it. I think it's them being nagged by their bosses that they need to have all this stuff in place, you see. So I've got a watch back later. Yes, yeah, Gemma. So if you're back, Gemma, watching this on replay, hello and welcome back. So yes, so you really do have a spectrum of different requirements depending on the venue. Say the bigger, more corporate, say if you've got Bannatynes or anyone like that, they are more likely to have, policies in place where they want your insurance, they want your ingredients, they, this, that, and the other. Whereas the smaller, more independent venues are going to be perhaps less picky about that. But as I say, if you offer them before they've asked, it does make you look, as if you know what you're doing. It makes you look quite professional. And I always do it by email, always, because then you've obviously got it all in writing. And because my memory is like a sieve, it sort of, everything falls out of my memory. So what I do is I have my, this is my list of, I print out my orders. So there's one, for example. So that's an order that I've got in. When's that for? That's for June. And what will happen is when I contact the venue, I'll put it in my bookings folder in my emails, but I will also write on that sheet, email the date, and then put a brief what the email was about. It might be that they've told me what flavors they're having. It might be that they've told me, I don't know, how many gluten-free cupcakes they want after all, that, that kind of thing. So any information or changes or whatever. And then when I contact the venue, I'll put that in there as well. But I also have it on my spreadsheet. I think I might have shown you my spreadsheet that I color code, so that when I can go into it and see whether I've contacted venues, whether I've got the flavors from the couple, whether I've got flowers to make, those kind of things. And I can see at a glance who I've contacted, what I've yet to do. So any communication from the venue, I will put on that spreadsheet, and I'll also note it in my folder as well. So it's all there in writing. So any more questions about that? That's generally what I do, and it seems to work really, really well, really smoothly. I don't think I've ever had a venue that's not got back to me. That nothing's been ignored or whatever. Because most of them, they want their weddings to go well. They don't want any what do you call it? Cog in the machine. No, something in the cogs. They don't want anything messing anything up, basically. So, when suppliers talk to them, they want to make sure that they have all the information that they need. Because it only takes, one wedding where everything's gone wrong, and the reviews and the reputation of that venue are shot a little bit, aren't they? Yes. Now, the other question that Louise asked, which is a brilliant question, and we might, a spanner in the works, that's it. Oh, I'm so glad you're here, Louise. Cog, oh, lordy. Yes, a spanner in the works, that's what. Yes, now the other question that Louise asked, which is a brilliant question, is talking about supplier lists. Now, I will do a Wednesday question on this, because I dare say there's loads of people in the group that are already on supplier lists. But Louise sort of asked about, there's a vicious circle, isn't there? If you're not on a supplier list, the couple won't book you, but the venue won't put you on the supplier list until you've supplied a cake there. So it's a vicious circle. I seem to be quite fortunate in that all the venues I've supplied for don't seem to have preferred supplier lists, and if they do, the couples have just chosen me anyway. So I'm quite fortunate that I haven't had to battle against that. And we will put a question in to see if anyone else has got, how did they get on the list kind of tips. But it strikes me that there has to be an element of sort of schmoozing the venues going on here. If there's a particular venue that you've got your eye on, for me, it would be, going onto their Instagram, commenting on all their posts and getting their audience interested in you and getting to know you a little bit. If you post something on every post that this venue puts out, their followers are likely to start seeing you on there. Think, oh, who is this person? Who is this? And particularly if this venue's preferred supplier doesn't do that, then you are going to get more known by these couples that they might have booked their wedding there and not chosen anyone else, or they might be deciding whether to book that venue. And in the process of booking that venue, they are seeing you pop up and they're getting to know you and perhaps they go into your profile and have a look and see what you do and think, oh, those are fabulous. We want that. I think that it would be one way of doing it, to get known by the couples and get them wanting you before perhaps the venue has had a chance to say, oh, we recommend these people. That would be one way of doing it, I would say. And the other, it's fairly obvious to say, but are there wedding fairs and things? Even if they have a wedding fair or an open day and you're not involved in showing, it might be worth just going along, taking some flyers. It's cheap. It's just being, taking potluck and just going and just seeing, can you meet the manager there? Oh, get chatting to them. Because as we know in this business, is an awful lot of, know, like, and trust gets you an awful long way. So if they can start to know and see what you're doing, then they're going to be more open to, to taking you on. But I would definitely say the sort of Instagram schmoozing strategy is a very good one, because just say you get seen by their couples or people that are interested in them, you will be then seen by them and they will see what you do. I've got quite a few bookings doing that. So yeah, so that's what I would suggest. And it's just a question, isn't it, really? And this is a time thing. I did a fair at a new venue, forgot to find the manager. Oh no. Right, what you do now though, Louise, is you email the manager and you say, oh, thanks ever so much. I had a lovely time on Sunday. It was utterly fabulous. Your venue was wonderful. Yeah, and you schmooze afterwards. So I would do a thank you email, and wasn't it utterly fabulous, and what a lovely venue you have, and aren't your couples lucky, and all that kind of malarkey. So do that if you haven't done it already. Do that. But yeah, it's a question of building your visibility and reputation in the area so that couples are finding you rather than and wanting your cakes, rather than just they go straight to the venue and just have whatever the venue suggests. That they've seen you, they want you. I've had a couple of, and it's brilliant when this happens, a couple of people contact me and say, we want you, we don't want anyone else, we're just asking you, we want you. That's right. Hooray. It balances out all the people that don't ever get back to you after you've sent a quote. It sort of balances that out a little bit. But yeah, it's the long game. It's the getting a reputation. It's being visible. It's being known for who you are. It's, getting known in wedding groups and by other wedding suppliers. And you do that, of course. I know you go to lots of fairs, don't you, Louise? And schmoozing all the other suppliers as well. Oh, what weddings are you doing? Oh, you're doing a wedding there. I've not done a wedding there. How do you all that kind of, I'm sure you do that anyway, but that would be what I would do. I say, luckily in my area, all the lovely venues that I've been to, and I still supply at, they don't seem to have preferred supplier lists. So I haven't had to battle that, but perhaps you do where you are. It's a shame, isn't it? But schmooze, Louise. Schmooze. There we go. But yeah, I will put a question up. I'll do it as one of my Wednesday questions, and we'll see if anyone else has got some pointers or advice. Someone might have some gems that that we can all use. All right then. There we go. Any other tips? Anyone else got any other tips for talking to venues, or any other questions? No? I'll give it a second because I know there's a bit of a delay. But have it because it's March now, isn't it? It's March. Goodness me, we're getting closer to our wedding season. I think I haven't actually got any booked to April, which is quite nice because I've sort of got March to prepare things. And then after April, it then gets a bit hairy. I've got some weeks where I've got 3 a week. I don't know why I've booked that in, but what you do, isn't it? Don't want to say no. Oh, well, it's just a question of being prepared, isn't it? It's a question of being organised and prepared and doing as much as you can beforehand. That's my motto. Anyway, rightio. Have a lovely Friday. Don't get too wet if it's horrible where you are. Have a lovely weekend. I will do another live in a couple of weeks. I'll think of a good subject, or if you suggest one that I can chat about, we can chat about. More than happy to take suggestions. Otherwise, have a lovely beginning of March, and I will see you soon. Okay, see you soon. Bye.